Hello, my name is Mr. Johnson. I'm here to give you some basic information for how to use iNaturalist to investigate biodiversity in your area compared to the world. So to start off with, you'll see that you can search for iNaturalist up in any search bar, and when it pulls up, choose the option Explore, and you'll find this map here. Since we're working out of Sioux Falls, we can go to the location bar and we can type in Sioux Falls right there, and it shows up as the first option. And to orient ourselves to the screen for just a minute, we see that the bounding box is the area that we are searching in. We can expand that box and change it if we need to, but for our purposes right now, that'll be just fine. A few things to look at is we can see here that we have some different species in a location in Sioux Falls. On the right-hand side, we have little pins of different colors showing what those species might be. If we want to find out more information, we can open up the legend and we can see what these different groupings of colors might mean. From there, this is a basic zoom in, zoom out function. So what we can do is we can zoom in and we can select, for example, if we want to find out in this very large taxonomic group of amphibians, birds, etc. If we look at the blue group, if we click on one of those, it tells us what was found and where it was found. So a golden crowned kinglet was found on December 22nd, 2011 at that location. And we can zoom in even further if we really want to. We can continue to zoom in and find out where that golden crowned kinglet was in fact found. You can always click this little X to escape from that and click on different pin to find out some other things that were found at different locations. Now you'll notice that there's a variety of different living things that we can click on, and that's kind of the point for our activity today. So let's zoom back out and I'll show you a few more features. What might be helpful to us today is to be able to change our view. So if we go to grid, for example, rather than showing us little pins on the map, we can simply switch to all of the species that were found. So we have the common grackle, the dark-eyed junco. We have all sorts of different species that are found in an area. Now, it'll even tell you how many of them were found, and we can click on individual ones to find out more about that particular sighting, which is kind of fun. So there's a little bit more about that. If we want to, we could also click on this list, and this tells us sort of a list of the updates, or I guess a list of the different submissions, but that's going to be maybe a little less useful for us today. So let's go back to the map for just a minute. Here we are back again at Sioux Falls. If we'd like to, we can overlay a satellite image of this area. So before I do that, we can zoom in and we can sort of see where we're at. So if we're looking at a particular neighborhood, let's say we're interested in the falls, we can zoom in on the falls right here, and we can see the different species that might have been found at the falls, which you can imagine is a popular place to go and maybe do some nature hiking, although there is not too much wild nature there. But if we want to, we can go to this layers setting and we can drop over top of it a satellite version. And this helps us, gives a little more context to the area. This gives us a little bit more sense of place of the Falls Park. So before, when we just saw a pin, well, that might not have told us much, but we can see here that a 13-line ground squirrel was found probably crawling along on those rocks closer to danger than he maybe realized, although they're pretty agile little creatures. So that gives us our ability to go from our map to our satellite and back and forth. That might be useful for you. You can zoom back out. If we click on species, again, this tells us the number of species that were found, and so we can easily click on this. For example, if we wanted to count the number of birds, we could simply count, a mallard, and an American robin, a green heron. So if we wanted to count just the birds or just the insects or just the flowering plants, we could do that. We could count just the winged insects. And so this is a way where we can count the number of species in an area without worrying too much about the number of observations. For example, the grass spider has 3 observations, but we can just count it as 1 species in an area. Since again, we're interested in the number of species in an area, that this page will be very, very helpful. And if we come back up here, we can see that's under species. You can always go back to that observations box, and we can always come back to our map. We can always change things back on this map also. From there, we could easily come up to this locations and search for another place. And so that's something to think about on the second part of our, or on a different part of our activity here. So feel free to navigate this, look around a little bit. We can search different locations. We can search different bounding boxes. Again, the bounding box is the location that we're interested in. So if we want to search just an area that we zoom in on, just to show you what we did, I pushed a little X. And if I'm interested in just like one particular part, just my neighborhood, maybe let's say that I live maybe over by, well, let's say that I live maybe over by Leaders Park. Well, I can zoom back out and I can kind of capture what I'd like to and do research. I can click that button and I can find anything that's been found in my area, again, by zooming back out, and it's sort of captured that location that I'm interested in. A few limitations you can see is that this website has only a selection of organisms that people have actually gone to see. So, for example, we might have a collection of observations around a place that somebody lives. Maybe they like to walk around and find different living things in their area, or maybe that area is not accessible because it's private property, or maybe not very natural, and so there's not a lot of wild creatures to take pictures of. So keep that tucked in the back of your mind while you're investigating this website, and I hope this has been helpful.